Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the 2022 CTA Human Rights Awards. We begin this evening by acknowledging that we meet on the traditional lands served by the Tongva, Kizh, and Chumash. We honor America's first people and all elders, past, present, and emerging, and are called upon to learn and share what we learn about the tribal history, culture, and contributions that have been suppressed in telling the story of America. Hello, my name is Alberto Nodal. I'm a bilingual kindergarten teacher and the vice president of the San Lorenzo Education Association. I'm proud to serve on the Human Rights Awards Selection Committee, and at this time, I'd like to introduce the rest of the committee. I ask that we save our applause till the end. Brenda Walker, Association of Chino Teachers. Tamisha Brame Carter, Centinela Valley Secondary Teachers Association. C. Scott Miller, Santa Ana Educators Association. Our chair, Maya Walker, Association of Educational Office and Technical Employees. Our board liaison, Telly C. from the Beverly Hills Education Association. And our staff consultant, Michael Flores Castañeda, from the CTA Human Rights Department. Let's give them all a round of applause. At this time, I would like to ask any past CTA Human Rights awardees to stand and be recognized. Thank you. We are very excited to be back in person after these crazy past 2 years. At this time, I'd like to call to the stage our leader, CTA President Toby Boyd.
Good evening, everyone. There is no light up here, so I can't really see my pages. We got to work on that, especially for tomorrow, because I'll have a lot of pages. Hello, everyone. I'm E. Toby Boyd. I am the president of the California Teachers Association, but more importantly, I'm a kindergarten educator for the last 28 years. Tonight is the highlights of the Equity and Human Rights Conference, and really one of the highlights of the year for me. CTA has always been on the forefront of the struggle for human rights and for equity, both in and out of school. And the reason for that is because we have always had a deep bench of members who've kept the commitment front and center. Tonight, we honor members who not only push us forward as an organization, but who leads by example. They've been recognized and nominated by their local chapter or service center for what has been truly important work that they've done in their schools and also in their communities. The Human Rights Award program was established in 1984, and since then, it has been expanded to over 8 categories. I find that very exciting because it really does give our members the opportunity to see the depth in which we work and explain what human rights are. We know that is a vital, important role for us social justice warriors and for the work that they also encompass. The willingness to do the kind of work we honor tonight reminds us vitally what's important, especially in these times. Unfortunately, despite great progress in many areas, we continue to see attacks on immigrants, increase in Asian hate, attempts to roll back the rights of women, and the ongoing discrimination against LGBTQ folk. We are seeing attempts to make our public schools lie about what true history is. They want us to erase what our BIPOC folks have contributed. All of these efforts have a detrimental effect on our members and especially our students. We can't continue to let them marginalize their learning. But we push back. We stand up. And most importantly, we lead. And the CTA members we recognize tonight lead in the most important way possible because they show us what is possible. They show us that we can move forward, and we do make a difference in this world. We celebrate their work. It's inspiring. It's important. And it makes a deep and lasting impact on our students, our colleagues, and our communities. So with that, let's not delay any further. I'm as anxious to hear about them as you are. So let's get to the 2022 CTA Human Rights Awards. All right, let's get the party started. Our first awardee of the evening is a strong advocate for his community, not only in his own district, but also by serving on the school board trustee for the Oakland Unified School District. I think that's a cue to roll.
When he was in the 6th grade, he told his mother he wanted to change the world. She replied, "Adults are set in their ways. Start with young folks." That he did. First becoming a paraeducator, then an outstanding teacher of history and ethnic studies. He is a passionate union leader and a strong Oakland School Board member. He is changing the world for his students, his union, and his community.
Thank you, everybody. Really, oh man, oh man. Whoa, whoa. I am so grateful to be here. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, for all the awardees. You're all amazing. We are always inspired by each other, so when I was sitting in the back taking pictures, I was just in awe of the great work that our public school educators do. I am humbled to be here tonight, and I thank God, I thank my mom, I thank UESF, I thank CTA, family, friends, siblings, the Human Rights Committee, thank you very much. OEA President Keith Brown, he has been a great mentor. The Oakland Public Schools, the San Francisco Public Schools. I thank everybody on this planet. And I also thank my partner, my muse, Cecily Meyer Cruz, for really just showing me what love is. I'm so happy to share this space with all of you this evening. I wish I could say this was a dream come true, but actually I never thought of myself worthy of this dream. I've always wanted to be a NASCAR driver. That was my dream. And as a kid, I ended up being a teacher, so go figure, but maybe one day. I didn't want to be an actor getting an Academy Award. I wanted to be the producer, connecting people and ideas and networking with others to put the actor in the best position possible to shine. Tonight, I have the honor of receiving the Lois Tinson Award. My mind is blown. Wow, right? Like, do you know who Lois Tinson is? The first woman color president, African-American president, and founding member of CTA and founding member of the African-American Caucus, and as well as EMAC. I just want to tell you a little bit. In the early 1920s, my grandmother was a worker in the fields of Alabama, making pennies on the dollar. She was courageous. She had no human rights. And at a young age, my grandmother packed up her bags and caught the Great Northern Migration train from Birmingham to Detroit in the 1940s, and later sent for my mother. During the Motown years, my mother moved from Detroit to Los Angeles because of the riots in search of her human rights in the 60s. Even though she was denied the promise of the quality of education growing up, she never gave up on herself. She persisted She persisted through a system. She persisted through a system where she was treated as a second-class citizen. I'm sorry. She was treated as a second-class citizen. My mother didn't have any rights that were respected by the law, but she persisted, and I'm here this evening as a result. She is why I do this work, and it's important to me. My mother doesn't talk about those days growing up in a polarized society, but I realize that rights that she was denied are human rights. And they actually, that she's denied are human rights, and they're held by all of us equally, universally, and forever. We have come a long way since then, when human rights today reflect the basic needs of all people: equality for all, dignity, respect, freedom, justice, housing, Medicare, education. No one or no student, no parent should be denied because of their gender, ethnicity, special needs, immigration status, or socioeconomic status. So I just want to say this, I want to end this, is that I am so honored to be here tonight with you. I mean, I think about the stuff that my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother went through to get me here today. I'm gonna ask you to make a commitment, not only to yourself, but to your neighbor, your friend, your colleagues, that you will continue to fight for human rights, lift up social justice as a checks and balances to institutional bias. We have to work together as a family. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's all I have to say. Our next awardee is a champion for her community and works tirelessly to uplift those voices in order to raise awareness and bring respect for the local Native community.
She is bringing visibility to Native issues within her community. She created a Native American Advisory Council that bridged the community by bringing the tribe, the district, and the families together to advocate for the students and their needs to bring about social justice and equity in the education. She is doing some amazing things within CTA as well, with the panel, with her human rights cadre, and she is dynamic. She's a powerhouse as an advocate.
Growing up on a reservation, I have a firsthand and lived experience seeing the injustice and inequities that exist in our systems all around. As a student and then a parent, I saw and felt the harm that is caused by the lack of cultural sensitivity in our school system. As a teacher, I hope to make a change. Human rights to me means that we are all seen and we're all heard, and that our cultures are valued and respected. And that's what I hope to do. And I am looking forward to my journey and seeing what I am able to accomplish.
Oh, that was cringy. Sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, CTA. Thank you to my family who's here with me today, my husband, Robert, my daughter, Lily, my surrogate daughter, Amanda, and my daughter, Maddie, who's at home and couldn't work or had to work today. Whew, this is something I never, ever thought that would happen to me in my life. I'm a res kid, like I said in the video. I grew up and I still live on the Morongo Indian Reservation. While growing up, school was my means to escape, but it was never the place I really wanted to be. School was where I was the awkward, poor Indian kid, and I always felt out of place. I had a lot of different friends, but I was usually the awkward outsider. High school was a traumatic experience for me, and by my sophomore year in high school, I was flunking out. Once I started failing, all the things that made school bearable were taken away from me, like ASB, clubs, and sports. They all required a GPA minimum. So I gave up, and I stopped caring about my education. I was bullied physically and emotionally. I hated confrontation, so I ran away from the conflict. I rode the school bus into town only to ditch school with other kids like me who were invisible. No one ever intervened to help us, only to punish us. I became depressed and acted out in all the worst ways. I did manage to graduate and pull it together to graduate with my class in 1993. I had no desire to ever go back to school. I did it, I graduated, I was done, not looking back. Then I became a mom and a wife. And then I found out that when my daughters went to school, things hadn't changed. My brother, he almost didn't graduate high school, and I had to help him catch up. More res kids, I kept seeing it happen over and over and over again. Our problems were generational and systemic. At that point, I knew I had to be a teacher. I had to go back, because we are still invisible, except for the harmful stereotypes that we still see. Stereotypes and discrimination continue because of a lack of understanding of tribal sovereignty and the history of colonization that has hurt many of our communities, all of our communities. Just like people always assume I speak Spanish, They also always assume I am a rich casino Indian. I'm not, and I don't speak Spanish. I'm learning my language, Cahuilla, and eventually I'll learn Serrano. I'm not ashamed that I don't speak Spanish. I used to be. I used to think I was supposed to. Why don't you speak Spanish? As an EMEA Day participant this year, I've learned so much in how the union can help with all of these things that I have had in my heart for so long and I've been wanting for myself, for my children, for my nieces and nephews, for my community. I am learning how I can leverage my position and my story to help build community support for Native American education in my district and throughout California. My story is no different than many of the students that you have in your classrooms today. My journey to this point has not been easy. Imposter syndrome likes to tag along with me everywhere I go. But then I just smudge that away and remember where I come from. That history made me into the person I am today, that I'm lucky to be alive today. I could have been a statistic like many other Native women. So please check on your students. And remember that Native students, our Indigenous students, our BIPOC students, our LGBTQ+ students, we are all worthy of visibility. So please see us. Thank you.
I don't know about you folks, but I'm back there. It's like, breathe, Toby, breathe, because it's like I just, anyway. Our next recipient is a passionate educator and a fierce advocate for ethnic studies, so all students can see themselves in the curriculum and feel validated.
Luca's activism to support and bring social justice to immigrants, dreamers, and other marginalized people inspires me. One good example is when she helped raise money for a family from Guatemala to release the mother and 2 sons from inhumane human traffickers.
Because each of the folks who nominated me are themselves human rights scholar warriors. These CTA siblings are why I am strong enough to do the work of fighting for ethnic studies, ensuring that all of our pre-K through higher education babies see themselves as change makers. These same peers are themselves human rights defenders, defending the right of every person to be educated with sacred truth curriculum and humanizing pedagogy.
Thank you. I went old school and I wrote my speech on paper, so we'll see if my Zoom affected eyes can read what I wrote. Thank you to my union siblings that nominated me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you hold me as a peer in your circle of badass warriorness. I'm really excited that this award is named after Cesar Chavez, si se puede, because both of my parents were migrant farm workers as well. My mom, who is sitting right over there she is waving, with my husband and my 2 children, was a farm worker, a migrant farm worker who worked in New Mexico, Idaho, Utah, that circuit as a kid, picking things like cotton, cherries, and other crops. My dad started in New Mexico also as a migrant farm worker, and then migrated picking oranges, lemons, peaches, and the grapes of wrath, as he used to call it, in California. He despised seeing how the hardworking people, including his 11 siblings, his parents and cousins, and you know how our families are huge, right? Seeing all of them being dehumanized. So when Cesar Chavez actually came to Fresno, California, where that small percentage of my huge family was living, to organize the farm workers to go on strike, my grandfather said no, we shouldn't do it. And my Yaqui Apache, Mexicana, badass, community-oriented grandmother was like, yes, we are. And she joined the line with other mujeres to make tortillas and frijoles for the people on strike, to feed all of the people. So when my parents finally met, 1970-something or other, had me in 1976, they made me, and they raised me on a diet of no uvas, no grapes. So I knew as a kid that I had to be in solidarity with the people on strike, with union, hardworking people. So just like many of you out here, I come from strong union roots, roots of coming together as a community. As a teacher, I knew that the stories of these migrant farm workers, the stories of the most marginalized people, their voices, that I wanted to ensure that those voices, those stories would not be lost. And this is why I come in solidarity with all oppressed people, with all racialized ethnic groups, to fight for ethnic studies. That's right, that's why I fight for ethnic studies. Sí se puede, that's right. We did it, right? We got AB 101 and other things going on. So it's important to note that I'm not just an organizer, I'm also an activist. This is really important. I show up when you all organize, just like my parents showed up when Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers and our Tagalog-speaking Filipinx siblings also showed up. Solidarity. And so in the struggle for human rights, right, that's why we're here today, and equity, we all have to show up as equals. Some of us are going to be muralists and artists. Some will be science teachers, scientists. Science teachers are scientists, right? I recognize that. Intellectuals and scholars, just like our keynote speaker said, right? We're all intellectuals and scholars. I believe that, I know that. Some of us are union organizers, some of us are union members. But something that I've learned is that I cannot be a human rights guerrera on my own, that I have to have all of us. It's really all of us, right? Including my husband, my kids, my mom, and all of my colleagues who say, yes, together we're gonna be in this struggle, right? And that's like a really important thing that I wanna note, is that we can't do this unless we're all together committing to do this, and I love that. And so I have every single one of you, all of us together, to thank for this. And I want to say thank you. I'm very appreciative to have been awarded this Cesar Chavez Si Se Puede Human Rights Award. Thank you.
I thought I would be short enough to avoid the light, but I clearly am not. So good luck, David. So I have the great pleasure in announcing our next awardee, a dedicated leader, always quietly supporting others from behind the scenes, a phenomenal girl dad, and a colleague and friend on the CTA Board of Directors.
He has been a valuable leader, mentor, union sibling, and friend who goes above and beyond to support and advocate for his community and uplift others, standing by our side through thick and thin. Telly has been a positive role model and coach to me and has been a great supporter of my own work, just as he has been and continues to be for others, and he is deserving of this year's award.
The Asian American Pacific Islander community has a long and rich history, and we have made significant contributions to this country. But we have also faced tremendous adversity, from 19th century laws banning Chinese immigration, to the imperialist takeover of indigenous lands, to the incarceration of Japanese American citizens, and to COVID-related hate and violence these past 2 years. In addition, the perpetuation of the mono-minority myth, the misguided belief that AAPIs are more successful than others because of innate characteristics, is divisive and ignores the struggles, challenges, and uniqueness of the many people that make up our community. These challenges shape the AAPI experience for all of us to this day. This is why I fight for human rights and social justice through CTA, NEA, and other labor organizations and caucuses throughout the country, and this is why I strive to be the best educator and advocate I can be for our children, our profession, and our community.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. It is great to be in person with all of you, and I am honored to receive this year's Pacific Asian American Human Rights Award. Thank you to my friend and brother, Jason Chang, for nominating me. These past 2 years have been a struggle for all of us, and no one has been spared. For the Pacific Asian American community, the added layer of COVID-related prejudice, hate, and violence is yet another chapter of our collective struggles and experiences as both immigrants and Indigenous and Native-born people in this country. Because the past is still present in our everyday lives, I am grateful to have the opportunity to work with the CTA Pacific Asian American Caucus, the NEA Asian Pacific Islander Caucus, the Asian American Educator Mentorship Program, and the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance. Through these organizations and programs, we as a community of diverse cultures and people fight and strive to be recognized and respected in the classroom, labor movement, and beyond. Whether or not you identify as Asian American or Pacific Islander, I ask that you join us in these efforts. Thank you, CTA and NEA, and especially my District I family, Leslie Littman, Chris Boucher, George Amaya, Hillary Hall, for fostering my involvement in this association. Thank you to the leaders in the Pacific Asian American community and CTA NEA who paved the way, inspired, and guided me to this point. Monica Tamarath, Marlene Fong, Arlene Inouye, Angela De Ramos, Ken Tang, thank you for all you have done, not just for me, but for the many educator leaders in our community like Jason Chang, Maripaz Berlin, Chow Win, and Estella Oahama Church. Our active participation in the directions we take as an organization makes our profession better and our colleagues and children safer. Finally, thank you to my beautiful wife, Tanya, for supporting my passion, even though it means time away from home. Thank you to my kids, Sophie and Chloe. Your ability to negotiate and to protest make you perfect future labor organizers. I love you deeply, and this award is for you because this work is about you. You and everyone in our community deserve to live in a world where you are seen for who you are and where you can grow to your fullest potential and lift others up as those before did for you. This is a world that I wake up every day fighting to make a reality, and until we achieve this, the work continues. Congratulations to all the award recipients tonight, and thank you.
Our next awardee of the evening is a strong advocate for the LGBTQ+ community, and has built coalitions focused on protecting some of our most vulnerable students.
Julie is a wonderful educator and union leader. Most importantly, she is a passionate advocate for our transgender and LGBTQ+ youth, especially in places where this is not easy. Where no supports existed before, Julie led the movement to create safe spaces and to help build communities for those in need. Thank you, Julie, for your courage and example.
When marriage equality finally happened in 2015, I knew that my gay son could grow up and get married. I thought my work was done. Then in 2017, the trans military ban was announced. I thought, maybe we're not done. Soon after that, my daughter told me she was transgender. Then parents in my district started complaining about trans kids using restroom, calling parents like me child abusers, and organizing to protest CHIA. That is when I knew we weren't done. That's when the work really began. I started working with others in the community to speak out at school board meetings, attend rallies, and deal with school bullies, Board of Ed bullies, and even a family bully. I began volunteering at the OC LGBTQ+ Center, speaking at Trans 101s, working with a group called TCAT, and helping out with OC Trans Pride. I joined the CTA Guy DeRosa committee, which helps teachers fund creative ideas for their GSAs. And now as a CTA cadre trainer, I get to help other educators understand how to support their trans students. I love this work. And with what's going on in Texas and Florida right now, we're not done, y'all. Thank you for this award, and let's continue the fight. Hard to see. Holy cow. Alrighty. So good evening. I am tremendously honored to receive this year's Human Rights Award for LGBTQ+ advocacy in honor of Nancy Bailey. From the time I was a child, I cared deeply about fairness and equity, and nothing lit a fire inside me more than witnessing hate and injustice, especially when it's directed towards children and those who cannot defend themselves. I am proud to be the sister of a gay man and the single mother of a gay son, Jackson, who's at law school in New York, and a transgender daughter, Keitha. They, like everyone in the LGBTQ+ community, deserve to be happy, to marry, to have access to health care, and to live their authentic selves. As a sister, educator, union leader, and single mom, I fight for my kids and everyone like them. From working on the No on 8 campaign, to fighting to implement the California Healthy Youth Act, to fighting for my daughter to live her life authentically, I will continue to fight to provide a voice and power for the LGBTQ+ community. Because of where I teach and live, the journey has not been easy. The personal attacks towards me, my children, and others who do this work have been painful and relentless. Nevertheless, we persist. Because in doing so, we demonstrate to our children that their lives have meaning, that their lives are valuable. And through each battle, inch by inch, we see the difference we are making. From our fellow educators asking for advice on how to support their trans students, to school board members and friends and families of LGBTQ+ kids who privately thank us for our work but are still developing the courage to stand up publicly for them. Friends, there is a coordinated attack on the LGBTQ+ community across the country right now. From the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida to Governor Abbott in Texas, directing teachers and others to turn in supportive parents of trans kids and accuse them of child abuse, so that now trans youth are being denied access to critical health care and support that they need. In fact, in less than half of the 50 states are actually safe for my own kids to live in. We can't stop until we have all 50 states, and we must pass the Equality Act. We must keep fighting for what is right. No one should have to prove their existence. We must fight until the day no one is afraid to be themselves. I'd like to thank Robin Nixon, C. Scott Miller, Eric Dills, Nolina Beecham, Lee Wygand, Colleen Dominguez, Telly C., and Michael Stone for their patience, mentorship, and friendship over the years. And I'd like to thank Denise Bradford for nominating me for this award, for encouraging me to dive deeper into union work, and for being a wonderful and supportive friend. I'd like to thank my mom and dad and all of my siblings for their unwavering support and love. And finally, thank you to my children, Jack and Keitha. This is all your fault, and I love you for it. Thank you.
Our next awardee has advocated at the local and state level for human rights for both racial and gender issues.
Gina is a mother, an educator, a scholar, and an activist. Miss G, you are an inspiration to your children, to your students, to all of your educator family, and to women all over. We can all learn from your dedication to your craft, from your mindful organizing strategies, and from your genuinely caring heart. The world needs more people like you, Gina.
Being a member of the UTLA NEA Equity Team has really helped me develop my voice as a leader and understand the importance of taking up space in a good way as a Black woman educator. In order to advance equity and make sure that our students have the best experiences, it is so important that teachers, leaders, educators like myself have seats at the table and make sure that our issues are recognized and elevated and addressed. I can remember an undergrad reading Paulo Freire's Teachers as Cultural Workers, and there was a chapter that stated, don't let the fear of what is difficult paralyze you. And that continues to carry me forward as I do this work. There are many difficulties, there are many challenges, but I'm not afraid of those.
This light. I'm really so honored to be recognized for just doing what I truly love to do. I want to thank God first. Thank you. My family. I'm number 2 of 7 kids raised by my mom, and advocacy just happens when it's that many of you. My son is here, my daughter Jamia, and thank you for understanding why mommy is always at the computer. Teaching is my second career, but it is honestly my purpose. I can remember sharing with a friend one day, I wish I had a classroom of my own. And they looked at me kind of funny and they said, that's not really a wish, that's a goal. Go do it. You should, and you got this. And I thought about that, and as life unfolded for me, I kept saying, you should, you got this, go for it. I went back to school, I was a full-time employee, I was a mom, I was going through a divorce, and I was doing everything and still working towards that dream. Finishing college and getting laid off from that full-time job nearly flipped my world upside down. But I kept saying, you should go for it, you could do this, you got it. There was a lot of life that happened before I became Miss G, but I did it. I was, in all my newness, walking through the CTA New Teacher Conference, and Angela Norman was at the booth. And she saw that I was in awe, and she said, "Where do you teach?" LAUSD. She said, "You know Erica?" "Mm-mm." "You know Cecily?" "Mm-mm." She took out her phone, and Facebook Messenger changed my life in a good way. I got a new circle, and from that introduction, I met so many siblings and workers committed to doing this work that just welcomed me in. I learned how to use my voice to bring attention to the needs of students, my community, and fellow teachers. There were so many times that I sat in spaces and I couldn't understand how issues were being ignored. Issues that impacted Black women, Black students, Black communities. It's like they weren't addressed. I continue to grow and I continue to learn, and in one of my grad studies class for policy, the professor said, "If you're not at the table, you're on the menu." And that opened my eyes because I knew why we were ignored. We weren't at the table, so we were constantly on the menu. As a Black woman educator, at times I find myself struggling, or the only one in the room who wants to say what needs to be said. But that courage and that righteous anger fuels me forward. If you're not at the table, you are on the menu. So Ms. G will remain at the table. And as I continue to grow and learn, I understand that sometimes sitting at that table, you need to flip the damn table over and start all over again. There are some things that cannot be reformed, they must be transformed because they must be better. As a woman, a Black woman teacher, I tell myself every day that I will put up boundaries before I burn out. So there are things that I surround myself with to protect me so that I can continue to do this work. All my sisters out there, it's too many to name, I forget, but you guys hold me up. And you support me and you encourage me. So just know this work is not over. We are at the table and we're flipping tables over. Thank you.
How's everyone doing? I was sitting here realizing that after we're going through this quick tonight, and I think that after 2 years of doing this stuff on Zoom, I think our timing may be a little bit off. So I guess I want to just pause for a second. This work of celebrating each other, of uplifting this work, is so important. And I guess I just want to pause, since we're running ahead of schedule, and give folks a chance to take a couple breaths, really think about all the powerful words we've heard so far tonight, think about their own journeys, our own work we've been doing, and just really take it in for a second as we celebrate this. So let's take a couple collective breaths. It's beautiful, important, inspirational work. And since we're running so far ahead of schedule, I'd like to tell you my life story. I was born a young child. And also let you know I've secretly replaced everyone's coffee tonight with Folgers Crystals. If anyone remembers that back in the day. So yeah, so we're going to try to slow this down a little bit, and all of us in between people even take pauses. And those of you who have been up here, we really want to honor you for all your beautiful work. And by the way, I don't know if you all know this, but some of them are shouting them out, but a lot of the people here are here with the awardees are here with their families as well, which is a beautiful thing to see. And I've met mothers today who are proud, beaming of their own kids. And I've seen people bringing their own kids, and we're inspiring the next generation. So tonight is really about connecting all of that in this struggle and connecting it, most importantly, to our work as a union, putting it at the center of that work. So next person I want to bring up this evening focuses on building curriculum that inspires and encourages our students to encourage and engage in activities that promote peace and justice within their community.
You've made lasting impact in giving your students a voice to talk about equity within our community. Thank you for the amazing work you do each and every day for students, colleagues, and our association.
Standing up here alone. I come from a Filipino and Mexican family, and when we celebrate, there's a big group picture. So one for the aunties, then the cousins, and then everybody else. So I feel like everyone in this room should be up here with me, because you're really the one who inspired me to do the things that we do collectively. So I'm a visual learner. I know there's debate about whether visual learning is a thing, but I'm going to visualize that there's a whole group of people here with me, because that is why I am here today. So I'd like to start by just saying thank you to the CTA, the Human Rights Committee, Redlands Teachers Association, our president, Susan Apt, not just for this award, but for encouraging and validating and supporting growth in human rights and social justice work. It's so important, so thank you for that. I have the very great honor to have both of my parents and my sister here tonight. My parents are immigrants from two different countries, the Philippines and Mexico, and yes. And I am very fortunate to know about their struggles and their history and visit ancestral homelands and know about the joy of international community. And I think this is what I try to bring to my students in the classroom and in the community. So I thank my family for instilling that in me. I appreciate all of my family who's not here. Like I said, I'm Mexican Filipino. There's a big family out there, my two kids and my husband, and really all the families of social justice educators, because we know and they know that they have to share our time with our passion for social justice. They know that we're always thinking about the next thing and how we can improve the wrongs that we see. And that's something that they have a lot of patience for, and we could not do the work that we do without the support of our families and our communities. So I thank everyone for that. I want to just say that I'm an Inland Empire native. I'm from the 909, born and raised in San Bernardino. I've been at a few different school districts over the past 20 years. Fontana, San Bernardino, Redlands, Yucaipa, and the social justice work that I've been involved in has been a little bit different based on the community, and I think that's important to recognize, that you don't just go in with solutions, you have to become a part of the community and see what the needs are. So my focus has always been on amplifying youth voices. So I appreciate the microphone in front of me here today, because usually we're the ones trying to put the microphone in front of other students' voices. We're the ones behind the camera, you know, trying to give them the spotlight. So I appreciate that, so I can say these few words. I've also tried to focus on creating brave spaces for the most marginalized in our communities and in our schools. And again, that means something different at every site. So it meant making sure bilingual emergent learners, who are often relegated to the peripheral spaces in our schools, get involved with everything that every other kid is doing. It meant asking why our students aren't at the table when staff are trying to discuss how to solve racial tensions. Why aren't we asking our students to be a part of that conversation? It meant creating a leadership diversity council where students led the coalition in solving racial tensions in their own campus, and them telling us it's not just race, it's socioeconomic status, it's bullying, it's homophobia, it's discrimination against English learners, and creating solutions for all of those problems. A Latino cultural club, an LGBTQIA brave space, an anti-bullying club, a free clothing boutique on campus, school-wide assemblies centered on anti-racism, anti-prejudice, anti-homophobia work. It meant integrating a decolonized and anti-racist curriculum when teaching any content. I've taught over 20 different classes, and it doesn't matter what you're teaching. You can bring in anti-racism. You can bring in a decolonized curriculum. You can bring in that to anything that you're teaching. So I encourage you to do so. It means open enrollment in AP classes, because so often they're the gatekeepers for preventing certain kids from accessing certain academic successes. And when certain students are struggling because they hadn't been welcomed to those spaces before, you prioritize their needs over your pass rate. You prioritize bringing them up instead of how you're going to look to your colleagues. It meant creating a student-led multi-high school publication for the community when there was no forum for a student voice. It meant creating that into a bilingual publication when they realized that certain people were being excluded. It meant helping create a student-led, anti-racist, anti-biased group on campus, spreading it to every high school in the district until it was a coalition that worked together. It meant expanding ethnic studies and African studies, African American studies from a semester course to full year courses, because a semester is not long enough for ethnic studies. It meant pushing ethnic studies to be a graduation requirement. Writing curriculum so those that weren't used to teaching ethnic studies have those support systems and providing it to every high school. It meant calling in, not out, community leaders when they opposed equity in our schools. And it meant not compromising so that our students in our continuation schools, usually our most marginalized youth, our foster youth, our houseless youth, students that are the most marginalized in our community, that usually get the least resources, making sure they're getting that equal access and equity. And so we disrupt these systems that we know to be wrong, and we support those that we know to be right. And if the right things are currently only ideas in our mind, then we help create them. So if it honors our students' identity and humanity and building community, even if some say that we can't, we do. So I'd like to kind of close this out by saying that we often say that our students are our kids, and in so many reasons they are. And so I just want to call upon my own son and daughter and all of our kids to pursue their passions with peace and justice and community in their hearts and actions. Thank you.
This next awardee dedicates himself to meeting his students' individual needs while also uplifting them to promote a positive self-image.
In Lakesh, you are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. There isn't any other person that emulates that more than Dan. He does this in the work that he does and the students that he helps with their SPED students. He elevates them for the amazing skills that they have, and he doesn't treat them any less than any other child. And on top of that, the advocacy that he does for our LGBT students.
I can feel the love tonight. Thank you so much. I want to thank the CTA officers, the Equity and Human Rights Committee, and the CTA Board of Directors for acknowledging my lifelong work in eliminating discrimination against children with exceptional needs. I think you can hear me now, right? I dedicate this Human Rights Award to my sister, Sylvia Ann. At the age of 11, she was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. It was my sister's life of pain, suffering, and personal experiences attending a segregated special education school that inspired me to pursue my vocation as an education specialist. I also share this award with my students, who have given me the opportunity to advocate and support them in achieving their academic, social, and emotional goals. While believing in them, I discovered numerous innovative ways to help them thrive and to achieve their personal and academic goals. I recognize the critical role learning plays in preparing children to have satisfying and productive lives. Moreover, my ability to generate results with children and youth with complex learning, behavior, and emotional challenges has a direct impact on parents and professional staff who actually see that success in school can alleviate difficulties at home and in the community. My students with exceptional needs often see themselves as different, stupid, lazy, failures, and bad. I strive to shift their views and feelings of themselves from being punitively isolated to understanding that they are in a safe educational environment that promotes strong self-esteem, an important key to providing victorious possibilities as they continue to thrive, evolve, and grow throughout their personal journey. As adults, we sometimes forget that attending school is the student's job. When children fail at school, they often feel that they're failing in life. When my students begin to think and advocate for themselves and experience success, the feeling of defeat transforms into resilience and success. I make every effort to ensure my students set goals, commit to a course of action, and experience the consequences of their decisions. While working with my students with exceptional needs, it is extremely important to monitor and support their academic progress, help them improve their attendance, and allow them to discover that their behavior and attitude can improve. Many of the students I have served have had a history of school failure and behavior challenges. However, my emphasis on enabling each student to discover their own value as a human being and to discover that learning is the key to success in later life has far greater implications. My students should not be expected to know and have all the tools necessary to be academically, socially, and emotionally successful. Rather, I want my students to know how to gain knowledge by being able to self-advocate and communicate on where to get the support or information that they need. More importantly, I believe that my students should leave my classroom with values that enable them to use their skills effectively in their relationships with their families, their friends, their teachers, their employers, and their community. I know that I cannot do this work in isolation. So, I have a few asks for you. CTA, let's be consistent with the use of the term exceptional children in all of our conversations and literature. Exceptional children is not a label, but the identity of our students. CTA, let's continue to advocate for our exceptional students to ensure that they are correctly placed based on their eligibility criteria and are receiving the appropriate services necessary for them to be successful in a safe environment. Thank you.
Our next recipient cares passionately about equity and diversity and has championed these issues as a president of her local chapter.
Margaret's activism, community outreach, advocacy, passion for social justice go unmatched. I am proud of the work that our union president has done. As a union member, I am glad that John Swett Unified is making strides to support all students, with Margaret leading the way. Thank you, Margaret, for your passion. We appreciate the work you are doing.
The foundation for my social justice activism really started with my parents when I grew up in Berkeley in the 1960s. My own activism started in college when I worked for Greenpeace and Abalone Alliance. We were trying to prevent the opening of Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, and we organized events and participated in civil disobedience training, all in our preparation for our actions. When I became a corporate accountant, I realized my values were definitely not in line with corporate philosophy. All my efforts to educate and organize workers was looked down upon, and I knew I had to find a social justice profession. That's when I became a teacher. Social justice means ensuring access for all, to the benefit of all. It's a movement towards a vision where a world is as it should be. It instills a sense of inclusivity with a sense of dignity and belonging. I found success in my efforts by establishing a group of representatives from the school community called Social Justice Activists.
Hello. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge and appreciate my friend and colleague, Cherie Giannotti, for taking the time and energy to pull together the documentation and nominating me for this award, and CSO Union member Rosemary Louis-Saint for her support, and CTA not only for honoring me here tonight, but for giving me the opportunity to spend up to 2 minutes encouraging you all to move forward in our collective journey towards social justice. I do this work because we have to. I do the work because we need fair and equitable access and representation in our communities, in our schools, in the CTA State Council, in CTA, equitable access and representation for all. I do the work because I have to. It's who I am as a child of an immigrant, a child of a union member, because I'm a woman. And because I'm white, I must use my privilege to work in allyship as a co-conspirator in disruption, transformation, and abolition. And my hope is that you all embrace who you are and to do the work as well. Remember that hope is a verb, an action word, just like anti-racist. If there's no action, hope remains wishful thinking. A couple of weeks ago, after Michael called me, I picked out my outfit for this evening and I thought, I hope it'll fit. I had to take action to make that happen. And here I am. Jane Goodall defines hope as a survival trait, a necessary attribute to perpetuate our own existence. So in every aspect of your life, include hope, action. When you leave this event tonight and each workshop this weekend, commit to an action. Right now, think of something you'll do that will lead towards change and generate hope. It will make the conference even more worthwhile. Greet every day and every interaction with hope, for without it, we are destined to be stuck in the murky checkbox mentality and superficial stabs at liberty and justice for all. Currently, the system works for some of us, but for our own well-being and survival, our system must work for the sum of us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference and be well. Thank you.
Down there. Our final awardee this evening is being given to a local chapter who has utilized the bargaining table to push for issues that support the local community.
We have been working for years, proposal after proposal with our district for everything from restorative practices, alternatives to the suspensions in the classrooms, unconscious bias training, and anti-racist training. So finally, our equity team and consultation with our leadership said, let's just do it ourselves. So we developed our own professional development program with our members actually delivering the content in consultation with community members like the Black Pearl School Board. And then we just essentially said to the district, we're doing this, we're gonna train our members, they need it. At the end of the day, we were actually able to get the district to include it as one of paid days of training on the salary schedule. I think we more or less sort of shamed them into it because we were gonna do it anyway. End of the day, we got it done. There's a lot more to do. We're excited to get this award, and we just need to keep plugging away.
Good evening. I thought you would have lifted it. Just kidding. Hi, I am actually accepting it on behalf of our equity team chair was going to receive this and actually like put in for this. She is ill tonight, and so I'm having to step in. And so on behalf of our equity team and our bargaining team, we are very, very appreciative for this award. The Sacramento City Teachers Association created a full-day professional learning session on white supremacy culture in education and abolish teaching strategies prior to the start of our 2021-2022 school year. I don't think after our summer of negotiations that we actually thought it was going to happen, but we did. The association has been working in concert with the Black Parallel School Board since 2016 to bring anti-bias and anti-racist professional learning to Sacramento City Unified School District. We appreciate the acknowledgement from CTA, and we are thankful for conferences, trainings, and to continue to educate and inspire us to do social and racial justice work in our classrooms and to bring training back to our members. So thank you very, very much.
Let's give one more round of applause to all of our awardees. I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. She was the 2018 recipient of the CTA Human Rights Award in honor of Lois Tinson and is the fierce leader of United Teachers Los Angeles. Please help me welcome Cecily Myart Cruz.
I guess that's the lights. Yeah. Good evening, CTA family. I stand here tonight humbled by the award winners and their stories, their fortitude, their attempts and triumphs to overcome struggles in the pursuit of advocacy, and their innate ability, as the late John Lewis said, never ever be afraid to make some noise and get into trouble. Good trouble, necessary trouble. But are we really ready to do that work? Are we really ready to go beyond wearing a t-shirt, signing a change.org petition, or sending a strongly worded email? Are we really ready to put ourselves on the line to affirm the experiences of our youth? If you are, then know this: racial justice is educational justice. It is a refrain that isn't said often enough because it's too political in some areas. Let's take it slow. Do we really have to say that? Yes, 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 we do. We must. So I want to challenge you, challenge us to break through those places and spaces of uncomfortableness for our babies, our colleagues, and ourselves. It is up to us to lead, even when no one is watching. But how do we begin to show up when you don't even have enough in the tank to sustain yourselves right now? You got to find your people so you can just be you, raw, unfiltered, and very real. You got to get outside and walk it out for mental clarity's sake. Rest because you deserve it. And say to yourself, you are enough. And then you will be ready for that comeback. I look to my ancestors to give me the strength and the hope of a new day. I look to my students to inspire me to lead alongside them. I look to my union to ground me in my purpose. And I look to my union family to build power on the ground collectively for all of us to win. So right now, I'm looking at you and I'm saying that the time is now. The time is now to stand up. The time is now to speak up. And the time is now to soldier on, for we are needed to spring into action. It is time to dismantle every oppressive system, and it's time to disrupt the design for all of our good. The late Bishop Desmond Tutu said, "My humanity is bound in yours, for we can only be human together." These words make up the foundation of the work that must be done, but it is also a lighthouse of the work that we must do to ensure the liberation of all people. The road ahead is filled with bumps along the way. We must be courageous and strong and approach the work with conviction and purpose. Together, we can and we must. So CTA family, let's usher in a new day where we radically transform our educational system to meet the needs of our babies, because the time is now. Thank you.
Before we close this evening, I'd like us to all give a round of applause to the hotel staff here at the Bonaventure. I'd also like to thank CTA staff, all CTA staff who helped in putting together this conference, this awards show tonight. Thank you, CTA staff. As we close tonight, keep up the work and fight the good fight. Thank you and good night.